aggravation, a little more action, please. All this aggravation ain't satisfaction in me.
I'm just going to mention that I was here 7 years ago and saw Emmanuel's presentation then, and I'm looking forward to what he has to say today. I've been told it's not the exact same presentation. That would be upsetting. So enjoy, and we're delighted to be sponsoring.
I'm Steve from Big Frontier. I want to thank you all for coming out instead of leaving work early like yesterday and not coming downtown today, and instead coming to this event. We first did an event with Manuel, as Gordon had mentioned, 7, maybe even 8, it was actually 8 years ago, it was 2001. And at that time, there was no Facebook, there was no MySpace, there were newsletters, there were the bulletin boards, there were all the things that we would almost consider primitive now. And my, how things have changed. At that particular time, there were a handful of books documenting approaches to what we now know as social networking, identifying social networks, things like that. You had Emmanuel's book. There was a book by Howard Rheingold called Smart Mobs. There were a few others. We talked about buzz. Buzz marketing was the big thing for several years, and things within this period of time have really changed phenomenally. It's been an absolute revolution in terms of communications. And if you look around this room, either you read about this in a newsletter sent to you by Big Frontier Mobium, you heard about it on Facebook, you were in a group on LinkedIn, you read a tweet about it, you weren't communicated in any of the traditional manners that we would have used 7, 8, 9 years ago. You didn't see an ad in a newspaper, you didn't read about it in a magazine. You were driven to this event by a social network. So this is living proof that what Emmanuel was talking about then has really completely transformed the way people are communicating and marketers are marketing now. And he will explain to you why he did revisit the anatomy of buzz, because so many things have changed within this period of time. And per the book cover, this is what, 75 or 80% new material, as well it should be. So I introduce to you the original godfather of social networks as they stand today, Emmanuel Rosen, author of The Anatomy of Buzz Revisited. Thank you. Oh, and I'd like to add one thing. We're going to...
The title of my talk is The Anatomy of Buzz, Lessons in Word-of-Mouth Marketing. And I always like to start by defining the term buzz, because the buzz I'm talking about is something actually very specific, very concrete. It's not a buzzword. When I talk about buzz, I talk about all the person-to-person communication about a brand. Okay, so if person A tells person B about something and they're not the marketer himself or herself, this is buzz. And buzz can be transmitted face-to-face. It can be transmitted online, over the phone, or some communication methodology that we can't even imagine today. It doesn't really matter. When you add up all the comments that are exchanged at a certain point in time about a particular brand, this is a buzz about the brand. How did I get interested in the fascinating world of buzz? This takes me back 20 years to 1988. So I'm originally from the advertising business, actually. I don't know, probably some of you are trying to guess my accent, thinking Nashville, Texas, or you're not quite sure. Well, I'm originally from Israel, and I worked in the advertising business there. In the 80s, I came to the US, I got my MBA, and I joined a small startup company. And in my mind, when I joined that startup company, marketing worked something like this. It was, we advertise, people see the ads, and then they buy the product. Well, in that software company, we had a product called EndNote, which is a bibliographic tool for researchers, and I was with that company for 10 years. I did the marketing and the launching of the product until we sold the company in 1998. 40 to 60% of our customers, 40 to 60% of our customers told us that they heard about our software first, not from advertising, not from a review that they read in a magazine, not from a dealer, but from another person. And that's why I became so interested in word of mouth, because I really saw that in the real world, things worked a little differently than I had thought before. And I especially got interested in what can I as a marketer do to accelerate word of mouth? Because obviously word of mouth is a good thing. What can I do to get some extra buzz out of what people are talking? I'll give you just a quick example for something I did. So we introduced EndNote for the Macintosh back in 1988. In 1995, we finally had the Windows version. What did we do? We did something very simple, even primitive, but extremely effective. We sent each Macintosh user one coupon, and we told them, this is one coupon that you can pass along to one of your colleagues who uses Windows, and they can buy EndNote for $99. Now, $99 was a great deal. Our Mac users knew that. They also loved our software. I'm sure you know about coupon redemption rates that are usually way under 1%. For this coupon, more than 20% of these coupons were redeemed. So what did we do? We did something very primitive. It was a piece of paper that we gave someone an incentive, not a monetary incentive, but some incentive, and something they could pass along to their friends. Now let's go back, or let's go forward, like 20 years forward. In 2008, a company called Ben & Jerry's decided to use the same idea. And I'll give you an example of how this can be used in today's world. So you all know about Free Cone Day? You don't? No? In Chicago, they don't have Ben & Jerry's? They do. So you go once a year, you go to Ben & Jerry's store, participating store, you get a free scoop of ice cream, and everybody is happy. So that's a tradition that goes back to 1979, in itself a way to create buzz for Ben & Jerry's. In 2008, the team at Ben & Jerry's said, okay, how do we get some extra buzz from this little thing? So a few days before Free Cone Day, 2008, if you're on Facebook, you saw this little icon that said, give this to a friend, and some text that explained Free Cone Day. Within 11 hours, 250,000 Facebook members passed this on to a friend as a reminder. Free Cone Day at Facebook at Ben & Jerry's tomorrow. Another 13 hours, another 250,000. So overall, 500,000 Facebook members passed along this little icon that talks about Ben & Jerry's within 24 hours to their friends. Now that's some buzz. In this case, in the Ben & Jerry's case, we don't actually know what the ROI was exactly, because I asked the team that developed this, how many people actually went to the store and got the free scoop? We know that 1 million of them went and got the free scoop in 2008. We cannot really connect the two, but I can imagine some ways to measure that as well. So not everything is measured that accurately in this case, but following my definition of buzz, we definitely had 500,000 comments that were exchanged among users. In the EndNote case, we had more than 20% of coupons that were actually redeemed. So in this case, the ROI is very clear. What do these examples have in common? I think they have several things in common. One, there is a foundation of goodwill and a great customer experience. We always have that when we look at successful word-of-mouth campaigns. People loved EndNote. Our users really loved EndNote. I was with that company for 10 years. I tell you, I would stand at the booth at the trade show, and people would come, and people really loved the software. Same thing with Ben & Jerry's. So you have this foundation of goodwill, and then you do something that is very specific. It's not like, hey, Ben & Jerry's is cool. It's like, tomorrow is Free Cone Day, time limit. When you do these two things, they sometimes work. So the first principle that I would say that is, as I said earlier, even primitive, is make it easy and fun to spread the word. That's something you can try tomorrow morning if you have the goodwill, and you create either a paper coupon or some mechanism for people to pass on the word. It's usually also pass on the word. It's usually also very cheap, inexpensive to try that.